comes alive. Who you gonna call when you get on the line? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Yeah! GLOBEBUSTERS! 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 If there ain't no curve, there ain't no ball. The globe religion about to fall. We're gonna open your eyes so you can see who you gonna call if you wanna be free. GLOBEBUSTERS! 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 Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Yeah! GLOBEBUSTERS! GLOBEBUSTERS! GLOBEBUSTERS!
And welcome everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS. We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to GLOBEBUSTERS Tech. I'm your host, Zach, Good Times for All, and today we will be talking about moon phases in time. Now, the moon has been a mystery, to me at least, I know, since this whole journey started. I used to think I knew what it was, and then once I became aware that the cosmology of this place was different than I believed, I actually did a lot of research and took a lot of pictures and came to the conclusion that I knew less about the moon than when I started, kind of just like the sun. It's one of those mysteries that just doesn't really make sense and has a lot of tales that go along with it. But today we're not going to be talking about the tales. We're going to be talking about the phases and what they mean in relation to time. But before we do that, we're going to say hello to our panel. And first off, we will be saying hello to Mrs. Cammie Nodell. Cammie, how are you doing today?
Oh, I am doing good. It is a rainy day here in the Carolinas, and I can't see the moon. But if I could, we are on a waxing crescent, which would mean it's best seen right after sunset, which it's not quite there yet. And so it should be in the sky right about there if I was really looking for it and the sky wasn't completely clouded over. So yes, our moon phases do happen in perfect time. This is a great topic, really misunderstood and really simple to understand. So I'm really glad to be here tonight.
Excellent. Next up, we have Miss Karen B. Karen, how are you doing tonight, ma'am?
I'm doing great. Great. Just great. Thanks.
Excellent. How's Flattoberfest coming along?
It's coming along. I spent actually most of my day working on that today. I'm a little burnout. That's why my camera's not on.
No worries at all. None at all. Yes. Understandable.
Y'all know what I look like. It's all good.
All righty. And the next up, we have Mr. Kyle Adams. Kyle, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really well.
Excellent, excellent. What is the moon? Have you looked into it yet? Have you studied it? Have you observed it?
I've definitely been observing it. Yeah, it's a really fascinating thing to observe. I'll say that much. Yeah, I got a couple videos on that.
Excellent, excellent. And then last but not least, from the Troubling Tribune channel, we have Skylar. Skylar, how are we doing today, sir?
Doing fantastic. Another day in paradise. Hopefully my audio is all right. Having a few mic issues, but yeah, looking forward to a great show. There's so many different things you can cover with the moon. You know, there's the lunar wave. There is the whole obvious, or is it optical effect of the moon growing to the horizon. All kinds of weird stuff happens when you start talking about it. But the moon phases, right? This is a really good topic, to cover. And one thing that I know for sure is that the Earth's shadow definitely has nothing to do with the phases of the moon. Sorry, Globers.
Yeah. Yeah, when I heard that that was one of their defenses at first, I was like, "What? That's not even in the heliocentric model. It doesn't claim that. What are you people talking about?" That's when I knew we had a big uphill battle to go.
Yeah, we
Okay.
fight against all kinds of people who don't even know their own model. And
Yes.
so, yeah.
Story of our life, you know. All right. Well, who would like to start us off with moon phases? I would like to just say one. Actually, I'll start us off. My little bit on this was Just Jack taught me this. Just Jack Flat Earth. He does the solar scripture with Karen B every Saturday morning at 11:11 ish, usually right around 11:11. But yeah, I spent some time with Just Jack and his family and actually observed the moon with him. It is a huge part of the Hebrew calendar and how they keep time. Um, the new moon is a very big part of their calendar. It starts seasons. Um, yeah, it was just amazing to see that there are still people out there today that actually follow the moon and not a 365-day calendar with, our new year. And yeah, it just blew my mind. I was never taught that in school, that there's still people that actually follow the moon for their seasons and signs and their new years. And it just and then it dawned on me that actually our Easter Sunday follows the moon.
Right.
It's all about, is it after the first full moon, after
The
the
equinox.
equinox?
Mm-hmm.
The first Sunday after that is Easter Sunday. That's why Easter Sunday always changes, because it's following the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Was the Mayan calendar also based on the moon?
I'm not sure.
I'll have
I'd
to look into
never
that. That's a
delved
good
into the
question.
Mayan calendar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was in there somewhere.
It was the Mayan calendar was a mixture of cycles of the different cycles, the sun cycles, the moon cycles, and the star cycles, mixing sidereal, lunar, and synod days
Took all of them
together.
into account. That's
Exactly, and those were all of the different subcycles, and so it was brilliant. And again, you would say that where it ended, but it was just you could continue on with the cycles. When people sit there and say that you wouldn't be able to match it up with today's because we've made so many changes with the Julian calendar and different things like that, what you have to keep in mind is their entire calendar was based on, again, the cycles of the skies, and that you can recollate with where you are in it. It has nothing to do with the games we play with the calendar. They were operating in natural time. They were much smarter than us on that. So yeah,
And
and
the
there are
Hebrews actually waited. It
Mhm.
wasn't like this new moon was the new moon of the new year. They didn't know until nature told them. Once
Mhm.
the winter wheat was ready to be harvested, then the next new moon was your new year start,
Mm-hmm.
the start of the new season. If you haven't harvested your wheat yet and you started your new year, then your seasoning cycles would be out. So they actually followed nature. Nature told them when to do all these things. And we've gotten so far away from that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's really amazing how, yeah, staying with Just Jack and actually observing that and learning all that, it really was an eye opener.
Mm-hmm.
And so many things in nature follow the moon and its phases. Like fishing. If you go to the Farmer's Almanac, it'll tell you the best times to go fishing each day, because that's the time when the moon is rising and the moon is setting. There's 2 times a day where the fishing will just be out of sight. I learned this when I was young, about 12 years old. I used to go fishing every day. And we were trying to find that perfect time to go fishing, at a new pond. And we'd go and we'd catch all these fish one day, and then we'd go the next day at the same time, not a nibble or a bite. And we're like, what's going on? And we'd be there. So, a couple hours later, then all of a sudden the fish would start hitting. It's like, well, why is this happening? Well, I learned by reading the Farmer's Almanac that, yeah, you can fish by the moon phases because they're most active when the moon is rising and setting. They don't care about the sun. It's the actual moon that tells them when to eat. And that, yeah, I should have learned back then that there was a lot more to this moon thing than meets the eye. And it affects humans. I mean, they talk about lunatics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
crazy things happening around new moons. Some humans turn into these beasts. you
Full
know?
moon. Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah, around a
Mhm.
full moon.
that's
Yeah.
due to the gravity somehow, even though the moon isn't actually closer or further away. It's just the amount of light hitting it. That's laughable.
Yeah, we can look at people, and we will later on when we have the cycles up, and even the way women's cycles match up with the moons. And when your most fertile period would be when the sun and the moon are closest together in the cycle, and when women have their periods in nature and in time is when they are furthest apart. It's quite interesting the dance that they play when we start breaking it down. Again, so many different areas to get into it. Yeah, my uncle was known to go mental on a full moon. It affects us all. It affects the planting and the harvesting. If you look at bananas, they harvest them by a full moon, and you wonder about it. But your sun and your moon have different properties to them. Your sun is incandescent, and your moonlight is fluorescent, and they have different effects on things. So once something like a banana is off of the vine and exposed to sunlight, it will start to ripen and go bad immediately. It's like the key, the sunlight hitting it when it's no longer on the vine is nature's sign to start putrefying it. So they pick it under the light of a full moon, and it's all put away before it touches sunlight, and it makes it so you have a product that you can transfer and store and make use of. We've known this throughout time. It's us today that have been disconnected from time. We've always been connected in time. Hospital emergency rooms are always much more full on a full moon. Definitely. We know it affects so many things. But let's start it with like the flat Earth cycles, moon cycles on a flat Earth. We can compare it to helio. It sure makes a whole bunch more sense on a flat Earth. Karen, are you in a place to present, or
Yep.
is it easy for me to? I think I'm going to
I
let Karen take over and walk us through here a little bit in time. And before you do that, before you pull it up, I'm going to pull up one little thing. Let's see. Let's make this big, a full screen. And before she brings that up, hold on one second, share screen. Everybody, I want to share the window or the entire screen. Walk me through
probably
again.
entire screen.
Okay,
Entire screen will show whatever you see.
okay. So do you guys see where it says new moon on there? Is that what I am presenting?
Let's see.
Yes.
Yes.
So before she does that, I'm just going to, this is, by the way, from Cosmos. And this works on an equinox, and this works also if you live down by the equator. If we have longer or shorter days, you'll have to do this, but in natural time. Think of noon as when the sun is over your head. It's us doing time zones and that have taken this out of time. There was always natural time in history. And think of midnight as when your full moon is directly overhead in that meridian.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at your cycles in time that Karen will walk you through, your new moon will always rise at sunrise. It's right there next to the sun. It transits the meridian at noon. Why? Because it's in the same area as the sun, and it sets at sunset. You won't see a new moon. It's only until a few days, like 3 days after, that you'll start getting your finest waxing crescent, which will rise. It's going to lag back, and Karen will show you. It will always rise before noon. It will always transit the meridian before sunset, and it will set before midnight. That's what we're at right now. Is we're towards the end of a waxing crescent. So it rose right before noon, or if we're at a natural time, 1 o'clock, daylight savings, transits before sunset, meaning up on top of the sun before sunset. So right now is a good time to see it and going down, and it's going to set before midnight. Your first quarter always will rise at noon. It will always transit the meridian at sunset, and it sets in natural midnight. So when people are talking about
Now, when
going
you say
outside,
meridian, just for those who aren't remembering, meridian is your midday point when the sun is at its highest point in the sky. That's meridian. It'll be either directly south or north of you. So it's
Mm-hmm.
cutting the sky in half.
so exactly as you see it, and it rises up and then begins to follow the meridian, it would be that peak before it starts and does that turn the other way in your perspective. And again, these always, so if you learn what your moon phases are and when they are, you can see them in the sky and have a really good idea about what time it is. They always keep time. And I want you to notice that no matter what we get to, there's always going to be a point that you're going to see the moon during the day under these conditions. People are always surprised that they see the moon during daylight, but you're going to see that like you're waxing gibbous. It rises afternoon. Guess what? It's in the sky. The meridian is right after sunset. You have a beautiful in the sky there, and it sets after midnight. Our full moon rises at sunset. It's exactly opposite. This is the one that you're going to see least during the day. This is going to be when the sun is rising. It's going to be on the other horizon
Mm-hmm.
in natural time. It's going to be directly up opposite to you. So you want to see where your sun is and turn around and you should see your moon. You know, you can catch them right together. But again, you're still seeing them in the day, just like you'll never see a full moon. Think about it, because I hear challenges in that you will never ever see a full moon at your horizon at midnight. It can't be there. At midnight, it is above you. It's never at your horizon for
Whenever
midnight.
I'm watching TV shows now, I
We
notice
catch
these
it.
types of things. Yeah, I'll be looking at the moon, and
It's like
maybe we can get to this in a later Globebusters tech, but actually knowing the formations on the moon, like the shadows, you can tell whether you're looking east or west,
Mm-hmm.
and things like whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, because of the way it wagon wheels throughout the night. And yeah, we'll be watching something. It's like, nope, that moon's. It's not what time they say it is.
Exactly.
Nope,
They're
they're
lying.
not
On
facing the
Archer.
direction they say they're facing. Nope.
Which is actually, if you think about it, just as a little side note, is really brilliant on the creator's part, because if there's no sun at night and you can't figure out where north is from the sun, you can figure it out at night by looking at the features on the moon. Thank you,
Exactly.
creator.
Yeah.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those big topics right there, is kind of which way the moon points during the nighttime. And Rob Skiba really pointed that out. And he's like, okay, if we lived on a globe, then the sun would be over here, but then why is the moon, like the direction of the moonlight, pointing in a different direction than where the sun is? And that was a really eye-opening thing for me. And so ever since he pointed that
Yes.
out, I've been looking for it. And yeah, there's weird stuff that happens.
Zach really specializes and catches again the nuances in any TV shows, be it reality or cartoon, on when and where they say. He's gotten to be an expert at it. Again, if you watch the sky, but we always have throughout history. Now we don't, and they've taken us off a 24-hour time, put us in 12-hour times, and then have it switched around by daylight savings and different things. So they've disconnected us from the sky as much as they could in time. But if you reconnect, it's all there, and it's always been there. It's always been there. And it's it's a timepiece above us, and that's one of the pictures we'll show you is the perfect timepiece that it is. Your waning gibbous, it rises always after sunset. It transits after midnight, and it sets after sunrise. Again, you're
So
going
hold on
to.
a second. Concerning the full moon, you said you never see a full moon on the horizon, and so
You never see a full moon on the horizon at midnight. A full moon on the
at midnight.
horizon,
Okay,
yeah,
that's
at midnight.
at
You're going
midnight.
to see it at the horizon at sunrise and sunset, again in an equinox time, but you're not going to see it. You'll never see it at the horizon at midnight.
That's
Midnight
interesting.
means something. Midnight. The meaning of midnight is where the full moon is at its meridian in
Oh,
natural time. I mean, so that's why you can never, of course, see it anywhere but the witching hour or midnight or anything in there is always directly. That's your marker of midnight. And it's, if you think about it with the full moon, it's exactly opposite of the sun. And so it only makes sense. This makes so much sense in a flat earth model. When Karen lays it out and puts this in pictures, you will get it. And let me just walk through this a little bit further and think about what I'm saying as she puts it through, and again, go back to it, because I know it's boring and I know my cadence isn't well, but it's magical. And if you look at it, again, you can know so much. We did the waning gibbous. We're at the last quarter, which rises at midnight. So you know, if you see a last quarter rising on the horizon, it's midnight. Transits meridian at sunrise and sets at noon. Again, another way of helping you tell time, and this is putting it where noon means your sun is directly over time. That's how they did it in natural time. That's how a lot of the places that you see the time zones that change by 15 minutes in that, Kyle, in the Middle East, where you see all of those time zones, these are religious countries that are keeping natural time. And so they're setting their time zones to where the sun is over their temple at noon. That's not because time changes so much there, but when you see these countries with like 15-minute increments and that, you'll find that they'll have a religious government setting the time zones.
Well, I
I
know
remember that with the
Australia.
Aztec pyramids. They really built it off of kind of solar noon and different things.
And you'll notice that countries like China changed everything into one giant time zone and took you as much out of time as you could. The more you go out of
Yeah, that blew my mind when I found out Australia had half-hour differences.
Yeah.
And we're getting there. Waning crescent, it rises after midnight, transits after sunrise, sets after noon. New moon, the cycle repeats. I'm going to be quiet and let Karen present for a while. But does that make sense to you guys, the natural time of it all and how you can look up in the sky, see your cycle? So I want people, instead of saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe it, the moon was out during the day, I want them to look at it during the day and tell time by it and know where they are in time by it. Because space and time, where you are in space is where you are in time on this realm. And we're going to, I think I'm not presenting anymore.
No,
Okay.
you're not. And
Karen.
Here we go.
Okay, so this is basically a very rough diagram of the position of the sun and the moon over the earth and how they relate to each other and how it makes the phases. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at this is that when the moon, the view of the moon that's going to show up is going to be your view from the ground of the earth looking up, if that makes sense. So don't look at this diagram and be like, well, from the bottom we would be seeing blah bitty blah. And I know, I hope I don't confuse people by saying that in the beginning. But just know that the view of the moon is what you would see from the ground, and it'll make more sense as we get through it. So the new moon rises at sunrise, transits at meridian at noon, sets at sunset. Okay, so then after the new moon, then you start. What do you go to? Is it waxing? Waxing is the one that's coming, right? Yeah.
Waxing crescent.
Waxing crescent. Okay, so what you're going to see then? So the sun. Now the sun is, for all intents and purposes, to explain the moon phases, is not going to move. So this is always going to be where the moon is in relationship to the sun during that phase. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
can I help clarify it just a little bit for them?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if they can see my cursor on your screen, probably not. But in each cycle, but pretend like you're under Australia right now, or again, under where that sun and moon are, and you're laying flat underneath them, right? In the time of 24 hours, the sun will go around that circle and come back and land on top of you. And that is your solar day. That is the solar day. That is your 24-hour day. In that same amount of time, for the moon to get to the same spot, it takes 24 hours and 50 minutes. So it's running slower. So it's falling backwards. So by the time the sun is there, the moon's not there yet. So every day it falls back a little bit more, a little bit more. It falls backwards in the cycle because it's the tail of the rabbit and the hare. It's
And
going
did you
to
know
go
in the heliocentric model,
or
they say it's moving the opposite direction, but we're spinning so fast it appears to move with the sun.
Yeah.
But if
As
you
I
look
look
at
at this,
it,
I keep thinking of the long hand and the short hand on the clock.
hmm and you can
Yeah.
you can
One
say,
faster than the other.
hmm
It is kind of like that. Okay, so the new moon, what you're seeing is the moon is under the sun or below the sun. So the ecliptic of the moon is on a 5-degree tilt from the sun, supposedly, observationally, how it's explained. So where the sun would have like a equal height, just picture it like that, but then goes in and out like a corkscrew. The moon does it in and out like a corkscrew, but it also wobbles, right? A little bit. -5 degrees under the sun and +5 degrees above it. So when it is lower than the sun, we are not seeing any of the illuminated part of the moon. It's completely black to us. We don't see anything. And so that is when the moon is lined up with the sun. Coincidentally, that is when the only time when a solar eclipse can happen is when the new moon and the sun are in alignment and happen to be at the same visual elevation. And that's when you get a solar eclipse. Always happens during a new moon phase. Okay, so then the next phase, so a week later, so it starts working its way up every day. Like Cami said, it's 10 minutes slower than the moon. So gradually, after a week, you end up with the waxing crescent, right? So now the moon, it's over here. It's
nope, you're
no?
3.5. You're 3.5 days into it right now.
Oh, 3.5?
You need, yes, so at
Oh, am I
3.5
going too
days,
fast? Okay, so it's not a week,
yes.
it's 3.5. It's half a week.
And your half moon is going to be your week, is when you see the half moon. Your next phase is 1 week into it.
Right, first quarter. Okay, thank you.
Or first quarter is what you're going to do it, but you see it looking up, it looks like, seeing half of it. So they call
Right.
it first quarter. So go ahead.
So the moon is starting to get away from the sun just a touch, and it's also starting to rise in elevation a little bit. And so what you're seeing from the bottom is that because the moon's always going to be illuminated 50% by the sun, right? Just the same way that the earth is always supposedly illuminated 50% by the sun, although it's not really like that. But supposedly the moon's always half illuminated because there's always going to be part of the moon facing the sun. So we're always looking from the bottom up. So now when this is just representing how much of that illuminated part we're seeing, because it's starting to creep around to the other side and it's starting to get a little bit higher in elevation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody's quiet. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so then next is the first quarter. So now we've gone a week, right? So now we're seeing half the moon, right?
And this in your first quarter, you're seeing half the moon. It's now 7 days into your natural cycle. And this moon is now rising at noon. It's going to transit at sunset and it's going to set at midnight. It's going to keep in perfect time with your cycles on here going here. I do want to point out a few things about the cycles on here. First of all, we know that the sun making the cycle goes between the tropics and bounces in the time of the year. So if you started at the Tropic of Cancer and worked your way down to the Tropic of Capricorn and then came back up and it landed in the same spot for you again, 1 year would have passed. I don't know if many people know this, but the moon does that same cycle in a month's time. So it actually transits the tropics in a month's time, and its orbit feels much more egg-shaped than the sun by doing that because of the way that it is actually making the full transit of the tropics. It's making a mini cycle of the sun, but it's doing it perfectly in a month's time.
And doesn't it actually extend beyond the tropics a little bit?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Hence the 5-degree
Hence the 5
tilt in the
degree.
ecliptic.
Because
The
it was so weird being down here in South Carolina one night. I was looking and the moon looked like it was north of me. And
Yeah.
I've never ever seen the moon north of me before. I was like, what's going on? I
So
went and looked it up. I was like, oh, okay, it's there. Yeah, that's where it's supposed to be. Yeah, it freaked
Okay.
me out though.
the
so
other thing
half
that
of the moon is egg shaped. I'm kind of picturing
think of
a
it.
longer equator line, I guess you could say, for the moon and the sun?
Well, you would in a way and look at it and think about the motions that it's having to make again that entire transit and touching between the tropics again in the case of a month instead of a whole year. So when you start laying them out, if you watch it overhead in stellarium, you get a good feel of it. It looks more of an egg shape going over spiraling circles, and it's almost like you're putting spirograph patterns on top of each other. They knew this in the past and they laid them out. They called it an astrolabe and they called it an Antikythera machine. And that the diagram you're looking at too, it's important to know that it's taken from the actual lunar nodes from, again, the helio model. And this is how the astronomers say that the moon and the sun appear. So where you see that the black line is higher than the yellow line, this is where the astronomers say that the moon appears that it is higher in the sky than the sun. And the other way is where, again, the sun appears higher than the moon. But these are taken off of their direct observations and their tilt on it. All I did was change the nodes because they have it going out. All I did was cricket one part and make the nodes that the nodes would hit again where they would stack up on top of us, as opposed to they would show them on the pinch lines. Do you see the pinch lines on here? They're calling the nodes on the pinch lines, but that does not make sense on the flat Earth. The flat Earth, your nodes would be where they line up, your circles line up on top of each other. So this is the ascending and the descending node is out of mainstream science. The 5-degree tilt is out of mainstream science, and this is how they say we observe the sky. So the numbers, or what I'm saying is not, Karen's not making it up. This is all how they say we observe it.
So the pinch lines are going to be the half moon at first quarter and third quarter. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. Type in lunar node and look at an image on your computer, and you'll see exactly. If you type in lunar node, you'll see the exact same diagram.
There's a question in chat real quick from Earth First Space Later. Is this pathway the same as why they say the orbit of the Earth is elliptical? Is there any relation to that?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes, I believe so. And again, we can pull up more of the magnetic equators and different things it travels over. I very much believe this is where it's in there, and they had to account for it visually, so they had to make it so much further away in our summertime and that just to account for the visuals. That's my opinion. Do I know? No, but my opinions is again, this is just taking theirs and putting it into observation. And when you put it into observation and look at it from underneath, lying flat under the flat Earth, everything creates itself. All you have to do is, in order to light up the sun and moon this way, is apply UV characteristics to the sun, which we measure and it has, and make the moon fluorescent, which we measure fluorescence from the moon. And if you make a direct line, it won't have a spotlight effect. It will have a fluorescent effect, a radiation and a fluorescent effect without a hot spot. Things will start to operate it the way that we see it. Just by doing what they describe in like laying flat on your back. I've done this where I hold balls up and make things with the UV light and a glow ball. And again, you can raise and lower it with it. Your phases actually create themselves naturally by putting them in the configuration they say they observe. So Karen from there is right now at imperfect time, your first quarter, which is again 1 week in time.
There's one more question in chat. This one from Mark Allen. I'm not sure. I don't understand this one, but you guys might. Does the moon move towards Capricorn like the sun in relation to the seasons?
He's wondering if
no.
It goes.
I know what he's asking. No, the sun does no, because what the moon does is it actually travels between the tropics in 1 month, where the sun will do it in 1 year. So no, the moon does not direct the seasons in that way. The sun does.
Okay, Capricorn.
Like, when is the moon above the Tropic of Cancer? Like, what day of the year would that be? And what day of the year would the moon be above the Tropic of Capricorn?
Yeah, it
it's going
happens
to
every
hit us.
month.
It happens every month by 2
Yeah,
days.
it happens every month. See,
Mhm.
well, okay, so you can look at them. Here's where it gets a little bit tricky. Like you can look at the movement of the moon where it's moving slower than the sun and it's always falling behind because it's taking 50 minutes longer. Or you could look at it as the moon is moving that much faster than the sun, where it seems to be behind
But
50,
laterally,
but it's actually ahead so far that it looks that way, like it's lapping the sun. And it's also going between the tropics, like from Capricorn to Cancer. It does that in 1 month.
yeah,
So
from
really,
Capricorn all the way back to Capricorn, not just Capricorn
Now,
to Cancer. It
right,
does
right,
the
right.
whole cycle every month.
now, because of the fact, I'm going to make this observation though, because of the fact that we can have people all over seeing the moon overhead, so we don't lose visual with it, and it's taking 24 hours and 50 minutes to make it around to again your meridian again. I'm going to say that it moves slower, and again, they'll lap each other because it gets slow enough that it will lap each other after
it
it goes around.
is,
Yes, yes.
yeah, it's just easier to understand it time wise as if you think about it as going slower than the sun, but actually I really think it might actually be going that much faster.
I don't think so.
So what we're saying here is you can make an analemma of the moon in 1 month as compared to an analemma of the sun,
Well,
which
you're
takes
right.
a whole year to make.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
right, Cammy, it's not going that much faster because it would be
Mm-mm.
going across the sky faster if it was moving that much
Correct,
faster.
and it's not. It's going slower.
It's going
losing
slower, but it
Mhm.
does go between the tropics in 1 month,
Yes.
where the sun
Correct.
takes that trip in a whole year.
Whole
The
year.
inside to the
Correct.
outside, the inner outer
Right.
movement is
Correct.
faster.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the north-south movement is faster than the sun, but
The in and out.
east
The in
and
and
west
out.
movement is
Mhm.
slower,
In
which
other
is a
words, it's
very
going to
fascinating thing to think about when you really give it some thought.
it's
Yeah.
slower going around and making it back to again the point again, but it's amount of motion between the tropics and the month again. It covers the ground a lot more ground that way. So again, it's wonderful, but it does follow the pattern of the tortoise and the hare, where again as she follows it around and gets through your different cycles and it falls back, is going to catch up with that hare again if you call the moon the tortoise, and she's on first quarter.
Yeah, and it is kind of like a dance. Like it's
It is a dance.
so not by chance.
Well,
Mhm.
isn't that with the Bagata Vita, I think it's called?
Mhm.
Is that the name of it? The tale from India?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. It's in all of them.
Yeah. Okay. So then a few days later, you're in the waxing gibbous stage, and you're getting farther from the sun and a little bit higher, and so more of the illuminated part of the moon is being exposed to the view down here on the surface of the Earth.
So does the position of the sun affect where the moon is on its path, as in its distance to Cancer or Capricorn?
Well, it's all part of the cycle.
They probably pull on each other, and it probably does make it. The moon follows a very regulated cycle called the Saros cycle, and it repeats itself. We've known about it, and that's how our eclipses are all predicted with it. So I imagine that the two are. I imagine the magnetics. I imagine the energy between them, the heats, the thermodynamics, and the different things happening are affecting them, and they're working
So
in tandem.
when they are on exact opposite ends of each other, so you've got your sun on the ascending node and the moon on the descending node,
Mhm.
where is the moon on the descending node? Is it going to be on Cancer? Is it going to be on Capricorn? I think
It's
that
going
right
to
there
be.
would be a really telling moment for us as to how one affects the other.
Okay, I think you could look into that. I think it depends on again where it is in the cycle, and doing it again the way it dances in the sky. And again, it follows something called the Saros cycle. So it's not going to be. It's going to be a longer pattern over time.
Isn't it
So
the 18 years, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Earth
Okay.
first, space later.
So if
Yeah.
it's always at a different location when they are on exact opposite ends of each other, then it's going to tell me it's going to be independent. It's one is not going to be dependent on the other when it comes to
No, not
positioning on the between Capricorn and Cancer.
not necessarily. Again, if you look at the Oliver dynamics of it, that's impossible to say that. I think you're jumping to a conclusion. I think it would be
Yeah.
jumping to a conclusion one way or the other to do it, but I would say it's more likely, again, the different properties affect each other.
I'll have to draw this out and give it some more thought.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Other things that were put into this naturally on her. Go ahead and take it across, Karen, because we'll say like why we think, again, when you put in the things that could explain it, rising and the brightness and that, but keep going.
All right. So, full moon, that is the moon completely 180 degrees out from the sun. This is the only time when lunar eclipses will happen. And the sun or the moon would be higher in elevation than the sun, therefore illuminating the complete bottom of the moon, which is the only part that we see, and giving us a full moon.
I'm
It
gonna
almost-
stop. Oops. You
I
can
was
almost
just going to say, it almost makes me think that there has to be something at the center,
exactly.
almost.
Yeah,
That's
actually, Steve Torrance, if you guys
Mhm.
remember Steve Torrance, where he would model these out in
Mhm.
AutoCAD, and he would model the eclipses and stuff over the flat Earth with the sun and the moon, and to get the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, to render the same way that we visually see it, two things he changed. One, the moon was not a ball; it was an ellipse. It was a flattened ellipsoid, like a disc, kind of like in that movie that came out. What was it called? Where the alien ship looked like a round, flat disc. Anyway, I can't remember the name of it because I don't
Treasure
watch it.
Planet?
No, I can't remember. Anyway, so the moon is flattened like it's rounded like a concave or a convex lens
A bowl?
sort of shape, and there was an object placed directly in the center over the north that when the moon and the sun were at the right elevation across from each other, that is when they created when the three of those objects would align, that's when it would the program would render the lunar eclipse correctly.
Okay.
I
I'm
wish
going
I had
to
a
add
visual
to that.
I can see what you're
Okay.
talking about.
Okay, let's see if I can run with that too, because that is doing it under, again, that's on animations and doing it, but it's very much still in nature. What I would think, it does not rule out the sun or the moon being spheres, because I can make it happen with both, and you can make the lighting happen with it. But what you do need is on something does special happen. If you remember, our circles look like spirograph circles, and if you look at where our magnetic equators are, let me see.
Be fun to do a study on like the second sun observation over time, kind of if we can continually observe it.
Yeah, I would love to have the equipment to
Yeah.
make those observations. That would be awesome. Because
That was a really, really fascinating discovery for me. Is just recently when I was studying the Urbano Monti map, is he had documented 2 suns on his map. I was like, what? And so there's so much like stuff on the Urbano Monti map that just, yeah, it just, the more I study it, the more interesting it gets.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at that map. I'm not super familiar right off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I had
a
a
really old map. It
You've
talks
seen
about
it.
Tartaria. It
It's-
talks about the 2 suns. It talks about the giants of Patagonia on it.
It's the
got
one that
so much
David
stuff
Weiss
to it.
uses on his stuff. It's like the original AE map.
yeah, there was a true earther who came on the debates that was saying that the model has to have a second sun, and I was like, I'm not familiar with that, but I'd love to take a look at that.
Now, there is a Portuguese flat Earth map that predates the Urbano Monti map, but yeah, the Urbano Monti map is kind of the most detailed.
Right. So,
Okay,
Cami,
okay,
magnetic equator versus the
yeah.
geographic equator.
Right. This is Karen. Thank you. This is Karen putting together, again, which is all the information out there. We actually have magnetic equators, and that you can see the different shapes that you're getting. Remember that your sun is making a pretty good circle spiraling in and out, but your moon is making more of an egg shape. And these are helping you with the visuals. So when they're across from each other, they're not necessarily going to cross over directly the center here. My guess is the eclipses have to do with, again, where we have the auroras and where we seem to have an energy vortex and pick up energy. This would be an electric current. This would polarize light. And I think in reality, you have your sun and your moon across. You can look at the eclipses and put them into placement. And I would say where we have the eclipses is where they perfectly cross over the center. And
I really like that observation of taking that magnetic field into consideration here, and how the polarizing of light can affect things. It can end up creating a shadow, or do all kinds of stuff.
This is doing what Karen is doing in full. And if you walk on it through the circuits and put some magnetics and put a little bit of nature into it, everybody probably in this type of advanced audience has been familiar with quantum locking and watching the magnets flying around on the screen with that, which first of all, you say, why would you only see one view of the moon? Why wouldn't you see it flipping over? Well, if you had that type of quantum locking in there, it would be quantum locked in a face down position. It wouldn't be spiraling around. That would only make sense. You wouldn't expect a rotation because you wouldn't in that type of situation. But if you look at what we observe with it and add a little bit of nature to it that we would expect to happen, like let's make this sun, let's give it temperature, radiation, and ultraviolet qualities, right? Because we can measure all of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now let's put the magnets into it, and let's put fluorescence into it. In nature, magnetics have what? A Curie point, and they're the weakest when it is hotter, and they're at their very strongest, and they collate the best when it is coldest.
Which also
Beautiful,
goes
Zach.
along with the moon phases, because new moon is close to the sun, which it would be warmer,
Exactly.
which would lend to not really seeing any sort of glow or illumination from the moon at all, because its illumination, it would be weaker because it's closer to the sun. And then quite the opposite again during the full moon, when it's 180 degrees out and fully illuminated.
So perfect. So put the diagram back up, Zach, and let's take you through on there.
I will point out real quick on that whole the quantum locking demonstration. I really like that because it's a frictionless system.
Yes,
right? So once you push it, it just keeps on going. But you know what question it doesn't answer, if that does turn out to be how the sun and moon are fixed? Who pushed it, right?
Oh, there's definitely creation and miraculous and a lot of things, the intelligence behind this. I'm just saying natural physics that would, in other words, I didn't make the natural physics. They're there. I'm just observing that in nature you can repeat them, but it's beautiful. And if you even look at something like this, again, while you're by the sun, your magnetics would be the weakest, so it would be at its lowest point. It's described in the Bible, and it's described in Vedic terms as below the banes of the sun. In astrophysics, it appears below the sun at a lower angle, and it would make sense. It would also be at its weakest fluorescence, and in fact, it would have a Curie point where it would shut up, which would make sense. They say within, I think, 6 degrees of the sun, you can't pick up any light whatsoever. It's like it disappears in the sky, right?
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense. It disappears. As it's falling back, it's wet. It's getting colder. It's falling away from it. So if you're in a fluid of space or something and give a fluid dynamic to it, it would get cold. So magnetically, the magnetics would kick in more. They would get stronger, and it would start to rise. And as it starts to rise, it's going to also catch direct UV rays, and you're going to have half of it again, hitting the top of the rays here, but from the bottom, think of what you've seen. I've replicated it. You can replicate it either with light or UV. A black light here and UV makes more sense the way that we view the fluorescence. Fluorescence has a lot of the same properties as magnetics. It's funny, in science they overlap. They both have about the same Curie point where they turn off and get their weakest. And fluorescence, if you want your children's glow bracelets or anything to be bright, to glow, your fireworks to glow brighter or anything, pop them in the freezer. The colder it is, the brighter it gets. Fluorescence produces a cold light, and again, the colder the conditions, the way it reacts in nature, the brighter the light goes. Just again, nothing I created about fluorescence. That is how the spectrum works. It's a cold light, not a hot light like incandescent. So as you take it up here, as it keeps on falling back, it's getting colder and colder until it's at an equal latitude. And from the equal latitude, if you think about how you see it underneath, you would see it as your first quarter, or you would see half of it, and it would make sense because it's on an equal basis with it, and you have a black light going. It's going to start getting brighter. Why? If it's a UV type of base, it gets, the colder it is, the brighter it's going to be. Again, as it falls back again further, magnetically wise, if it was quantum locked, it would naturally rise on its own and start to get brighter and brighter on its own as it got colder and colder and colder. At its full moon, it's going to be at its very highest spot. So it's going to be, again, if you think of the sun underneath it and illuminating it, you would see a full moon from underneath. And you can replicate this again with little glow balls and UV flashlights.
I do have a question about the nodes.
Mhm.
Do they ever the ascending node and descending node, do they ever switch? Like, is there different points of the year where the ascending point will be different?
Well, again, these are a dance of the sun and moon
Yeah.
in time.
If you look at it on a astrology chart, it would be they have the ascending node and the descending node. The north node and the southern node is also called Rahu Ketu. They show up on the astrology charts as well, and they do rotate. Everything, the path,
Everything
the
is in
sun has a
motion.
path, the moon has a path, and then together they all have a path that also rotates. It's all part of the big cycle.
And
this is
dances
why
perfectly in time.
and this is why the eclipse switch between different nodes.
Yes.
Time.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I've always seen the usage of the word node to be really peculiar because it directly relates to electromagnetism. If you talk about the ends of a battery, right, the little nipple on the battery, that's called the node, is it not?
I believe so. And here,
Yeah.
the one thing is I did move the nodes from their pinch points here to, again, where we would pick them up as, but from above and below and across. These would be our nodes, and they work with it. Nodes come in everywhere. Again, they're your points where everything meets in electronics. I think they would be your nipples on it. Your full moon at your brightest, it's your very coldest. That's when people take their thermometers out and measure the moonlight.
Yep.
Is again at your full moon, and it would make sense being the furthest away from it in the dance.
Also, if you guys really want to test that too, another thing you can do is like look at the temperatures daily where you're in your local area. It almost always drops when there's a full moon. I've been watching this ever since people were measuring full moon. You can watch it happen. The temperature in your local area or wherever will drop when the moon is full at night. You'll just get colder night temperatures, just a
Yeah.
little bit. It happens.
Ken Wheeler with his thermal camera, I thought was a great demonstration because it shows it's not just in this area. He was out and there was a full moon and there were a lot of trees around in shade. And he just kept pointing to the shady part, and the shady part would be warmer. And he'd go back out in the moonlight and it'd get colder, and he'd go around to this shade, and this shade would be warmer. It wasn't like just he pointed it all over the place. And it seemed to coincide with, yes, the moonlight is actually colder. And it would make sense. I mean, if you leave something out like food You know, especially like a piece of fruit that you've already bitten into. If you leave it out in the moon, that thing's going to putrefy a lot quicker than if you were to leave it out in the sun. The sun's going to dry it out and try to dehydrate it, or the moon's going to try to break it down into like mush. Yeah, it's weird. The properties are so opposite.
And the sun and the moon also, they have different effects depending on if they're root vegetables grown underground or on top of ground. They seem to have some of the reverse properties on each other, which I find really fascinating too. There's a lot to get into on that. This one, as she was taking it back and it fell back further. Now it's going in the circle. It's losing 50 minutes a day. You're 3.5 days further back here. And guess what? It's getting closer to the sun again, so it's getting warmer. And getting warmer would cause the diamagnetics and the magnetics of it to get weaker. Again, cold helps culmination. It makes it so things are not so vibrating quickly. It locks them more into alignment. And as you would do that, it would naturally, again, get weaker and pulled down. The warmer you get, the weaker it goes. You're now 3 weeks into your cycle, your last quarter, falling into it, getting hotter and hotter still until you're waning crescent where it's going away. And this is about where you see no sun in the sky, your new moon.
No moon in the sky.
No moon in the sky. You're right. You always said, never mind. Thank you for
It's so easy to get them flip flop when you're
Yeah, oh
trying to
yeah.
explain stuff.
Yeah.
my dyslexia with the words. But if you,
I
again,
do
look
it.
at them in time and cycle, it's a dance. What we were talking about, like a woman's natural cycle. Most of you guys know the moon, full moon, would be about the time most women would have their period. This is when you're furthest away from each other. This is when arguments, tensions are high, emergency rooms are full, people are hostile.
Beast mode.
This is in opposition to each other, and anybody doing fertility and that going through there and starting to count into your cycle, you'll see like from the day your period starts, 14 days into your cycle, you're very most fertile here. We're naturally together. We can do this with planning cycles. You can do this with all types of cycles and match them. But I think it's fascinating that, again, they've made us lose contact with the sky and how it's a perfect clock.
It reminds me of that metaphor, how you need the destruction before new things can grow. So the world is in chaos at one part of it, and then like when the forest is on fire, and then from the fresh, fertile soil you get new growth.
I'm kind of noticing here that the node is kind of the ascending node is when the sun and moon are like side by side together, and I'm kind of wondering about the electromagnetic properties of that. Is this like a positive and negative node, and all of a sudden that's when that's when the sparks start to fly?
This is when, I don't know, this is when your women and men are at their most fertile, and this is actually not, the full moon is when it's crazy. Over here is, again, where people seem to be working more together in natural time.
Yeah,
Love to hear what the chat would have to say about it.
It's like a current of life, I guess you could say. That's when, positive and negative comes together, right?
Well, it's like one of the hermetic principles, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the ebb and the flow. The all opposites are reconciled.
If you add in optics, and we won't diverge much, but again, if you add in optics and follow the magnetics and layered them up one and did some of the things we were doing last week with parabolic dishes and the way they reflect, you would even have where they would physically be there and you'd be seeing them here. And again, you can start adding in a lot of the hermetics and the different things, especially when you're Rahu and Ketu, when you start adding layers into it. And the layers make perfect sense. They're talked about through every religion and through every cosmology.
Now, I would like to play a video here by one of the OG flat earthers, AJC 1844 is his channel name. He did a group of
Adam
videos.
Carter.
called the Flat Earth Smarts. If you haven't seen these, you should go through and watch each one of them. They're amazing. He goes over multiple different topics. And the ones that really got me the most were when he started breaking out the planisphere. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Stars, one of my favorites, number 12. Number 13, Cracking the Moon, is a really good one. He does it all over a planisphere and, takes back data from way back when and everything.
Planisphere. I'm thinking again back to the Urbano Monte map. That's what it was referred to as.
Yeah, but it's basically like an astrolabe or anything like that. It's just navigating over a flat surface.
So that's what they mean by planisphere, is kind of like
Well,
an astrolabe kind of a thing. The plane
well,
that
planisphere, it's, come on. You get it.
well, it charts the,
I'm just kidding.
The moon, or sorry, it charts the sun on it. It's got the equator on the.
Yeah, but it's all, but it shows it it's from an observer point of view, right? It's showing it for you on a flat surface from your point of view. Like you have to take into account your position on the Earth to figure it out, right?
Exactly, Karen. Exactly. You do it based on your latitude and look out through there. I was getting ready to, wasn't in my reach. I'd have to take like 5 steps to get a planisphere. But Cal, you should have one.
I should have.
A planisphere. It's not very, just type
Well,
in
I've
on
got the
there.
Urbano Monte map, so that's a planisphere.
No, it's actual. No, it's what you look at the star as at night for, and it's an actual tool.
Planisphere has like measuring. It's got like measuring stuff on it.
And you need that.
It's
Yeah,
like,
you
it's
need
like
one
made so you
for
can figure
your
stuff out.
Okay.
latitude. Even you want it for your latitude.
Okay.
Like
So
a
it's
lot
more,
of them are made
more
at
of,
41.
More for looking at the stars, then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but you
Yes.
can track the moon and everything with it. Yeah, the sun.
Okay.
That's used for all of them. Yeah.
I've got the clock apps. Yeah. Does that count?
So I dropped Adam's link here in the chat to his channel. It's just an amazing channel. I learned a lot from this gentleman. And it's not this one. There was one that was, right here. Riddle the Moon. He asked a really neat question in this one. And then on your own time, maybe later, go check out Cracking the Moon. It's about a half hour long. But we're just going to watch this short 5-minute one. I don't think Adam will mind. He's a really good guy.
He is very, very one of the most gentleman, decent people I've met in my lifetime. I don't think he'd mind. He's really, really one of my favorite people to talk to.
All right, so here we go. AJC 1844, Flat Earth Smarts, number, I don't want to get it wrong, 7, Riddle the Moon.
Welcome back again. I've got a puzzle for you. Most of us are reasonably happy with the answers we have so far. The flat Earth seems to be holding up well, so I ask you to think back to the globe for a moment. The sun has been set rather nicely at the centre of the solar system, and its path between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn has been accommodated by tilting the Earth's axis relative to the sun. Once a year, regular as clockwork, the sun seems to move from one to the other and back again. So let's turn our thoughts to its partner in the sky, the moon. Again, it appears most nights, and we take it for granted that it does what it does. So I have a question for you. How fast does the moon travel around the Earth? Most of us have lived with the commonly held belief that it takes about 28 days, and it seems about right. We've all heard about the lunar month, and it seems like a good idea, but when did you last take a good long look at the moon? Most people think that the moon takes a month to travel around the Earth, and that it travels west to east. After all, each night it's further east than the night before. But rather than checking from one night to the next, how about going out and watching it for a couple of hours in one night? Do you notice something? Yep, it's going the other way. The moon actually goes round the Earth in a little over 25 hours, slightly longer than a solar day, and so it seems to lag behind the sun. We've all heard the old stories about the tortoise and the hare used to describe how one is slower than the other. So the appearance that the moon is travelling in the opposite direction to the sun only occurs when we're too impatient to watch the moon for a few hours. Alright so far? Here's the kicker. The moon also travels from Cancer to Capricorn and back again, but it does so in 1 month. Yeah, go and take a closer look. Did you ever wonder why the moon moves north and south over the month and then comes back again? It's kinda smart, but let's not let it slip under the radar. If you've got your head around flat Earth, this shouldn't faze you too much. It really is no different to what we know of the sun's movement, except that it does it every month rather than once a year. Give this one to the Globers and see what they make of it. They're still not sure where the moon came from, so don't hold your breath, but from a global point of view, it looks like this. By the space of 1 month, the moon moves from here to here and back again. Don't take my word for it, go check it for yourself. If you go to timeanddate.com and step through the day by the hour, you'll see it for yourself. It's slightly slower than the sun. You can then watch it over the next month and you'll know where it's going from day to day. Once you see how fast the moon moves around the Earth, the moon phases reflecting sunlight are senseless. For the globe, the moon mimics the movement of the sun, and there's a big difference. The movement of the sun is claimed to be caused by the tilt of the axis of the globe relative to the sun. The moon has no such claim to rely on. Any claim that the tides affect the moon mean nothing to any of this. There is no correlation between the tides and the tropics. The tides just don't change that fast or as regularly. It simply doesn't work anymore. So there you go, a riddle to be figured out. Take it to the globe, see what it makes of it. They're surprisingly quiet on the matter. On a globe, it has no explanation. The link between the tides and the moon is on life support. Maybe this warrants a closer look. Thanks for watching.
I like that about the tropics. It makes me want to really explore that matter a little bit further on the tides in the tropics.
AJC 1844. Yeah, I love his videos. They're all really well made. I like his voice, and he always uses classical music in the background like that, which I also love. But yeah, go check him out. AJC 1844. Cracking the Moon is the one where he really, really gets into it and digs down deep. It's almost a half hour though. We're not going to watch it here, but yeah, I would. If you're interested in this subject, go check out Adam. He shows how the moon doesn't make a perfect circle over the Earth, how that's actually like an oval shape that it's making. So yeah, AJC 1844 hasn't made a video in quite a while, but when he did, they were amazing.
Word.
Word.
Yep.
Yeah,
And we are sharing nothing, by the way.
What
there
now?
we go. I said, and we have a black screen on there, so thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to share on the topic of the phases of the moon or anything else about this? I know that we could talk about the moon and different things about the moon for hours. I mean, it'd be easy. We're definitely going to have to go through the wagon wheel of the sun and the moon throughout the day.
Oh yeah, field rotation.
Yeah, that one, when I first started really studying the sun and I got my solar filter, it was like a solar maximum. So there was a lot of sunspots. And I was taking multiple pictures a day over hours. You know, I was taking them in the morning, midday, and then in the afternoon. There were some days I did it every 15 minutes. I took a picture just because I
Yeah.
really wanted to
That's really
nail
good,
it
Zach.
down.
How come your stuff wasn't in my sunspot video? Or did you do that after? Because I
I
did a whole video where
erased like 100. I went crazy one day.
and you just erased a bunch of pictures.
I
You know,
erased like 100 videos. I still have all
I
the
feel that.
pictures.
I
Yeah.
feel that though, because when I first got my P900, like all I would do is take pictures and video of the sun and the moon and the stars. And then after you do it for a while and you start looking at all your video, you're just like, the fuck am I doing, dude?
Yeah, I know. I
Like
was
there's
putting
just
out a
so
weekly
much.
video. Yeah, a weekly video of the rotation that I got this week, and it was like, okay, I got to stop this. This is I quit because I was going mad. Trying to
I
figure
get
out
it.
what was going on with the sun was driving me insane. And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I don't care what you are. I'm just very grateful that you come back and start a new day for me every day. Thank you. That's all I can say to the sun anymore. Not I know what you are, or I'm gonna figure you out. Don't even try. I
Yeah.
don't.
You
I
know,
just say
that's why
thank
they're
you.
called observatories, because all you can do is observe. That's it.
Hmm.
It's all you can do.
That's right.
So all this stuff about we know this, we no you don't. All you can do is look at it. If you any knowledge you think you have beyond what you can see by visuals, you don't have. It's a guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I just stopped trying to figure it out. I was like, yeah, it'll, I
Yeah.
ponder it, I think about it every once in a while, but this was a daily. I mean, I have pages and pages of my notebook where I was drawing in the sunspots in case my camera freaked out and didn't, and I lost all those pictures. And yeah, I was going way too far. I bought a
Playing the long
sextant.
game is tough. It's really tough.
It was 8 months of every day taking pictures.
But you know
every day.
what? I feel like that's a really good experience. Like, cause I didn't go to the links that you did, but I was doing it pretty hardcore for a while. I was like filling up lots of disk space with these pictures and videos
Yeah.
for a while. And like, I would never really reference them or go back to them except for randomly on my own, and I was just like, how many full moon pictures do I really need? I just don't. If you're looking for something specific, it does serve a purpose. But man, but what it taught me though is that the sun and the moon are like it is a sky clock. They are always there. They are always where they are supposed to be at the time they're supposed to be there. There is absolutely nothing on the face of this plane that was made by man that is as reliable as the sun and the moon and the stars. Nothing. This is why, like, when people would tell me that there was a sun simulator, replacing the sun, I was like, no. Just no. There are so many. If you watch the sky for a while, you will know that it is impossible to replace the sun with a man-made physical object. It's just impossible. There's no way.
It's too grand.
No.
It is. It's just
No way.
too.
My mind is going a million miles an hour on it. To be honest, I keep looping back to the how in the heck are they moving in this ascending and descending pattern? And I go back to the quantum locking. Well, are they locked in space somehow? We've talked about in this show.
That's easy.
And I'm sorry.
I don't know that the possibilities are easy. In other words, like we have a dielectric inertial plane here, built the magnetics up another layer, and when you add the layers, the first heavens and the second heavens, and that each time you do that, take your little magnetics and add a layer, and each layer you add a new dielectric plane, and now you can, again, if you have the fluid dynamics, and that in physics it can work. I can tell you how possibilities of all of these can work in physics. Can I go up and measure the different things? No, but I'm saying just looking overhead, it's really easy to.
So what you can do with that demonstration apparently is you can take that and flip it upside down, and the thing stays locked in place, right? So I go back to
this, Skylar.
I go back to things that Mock said, where there's like, well, we could explain the Coriolis with inertial force coming from like a spinning shelf overhead or something like that. And I think, well, if this shelf is like not exactly center for whatever reason, then maybe they're just following that, and that's what's causing the nodes. But then, I mean, that would be a tough time explaining the double sun with the refraction coming through some sort of shelf. But then that goes back to you saying there's multiple layers. So yeah, my brain's just spinning. I love this topic.
We can do it and get further with it, but I'm saying that different ways of doing it. There are multiple different ways of possibilities of putting it together. The fun thing about it is that there are multiple possibilities and things that, again, I don't know if we'll ever get to exactly what it is, but unlike Helio, where they say we know less than 3% about anything, and they don't, because things won't work with it. You know, in other words, you need black holes, you need dark space, you need all of this stuff to account and make their model glue together. This one you can say, well, the physics works on here, like redshift, you could do magnetic tilt, that would work, crystalline tilt. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways to get redshift and have things work and tell you things. Do we know which one it is? No, but things work here with, again, most of them were, you do redshift in Helio and it falls to hell in a handbasket when you start applying it, that they have stuff moving towards us and away from us that are right next to each other and are moving with the relationship to each other. Again, it's something that completely holds up. I'm going off topic, aren't I, Zach?
A little bit. That's okay.
Reel it in. Reel it in.
Well, all right, folks. I think that'll wrap it up for tonight's show. We covered the moon phases, I think, pretty well. Touched on a couple other things about the moon. Like I said, we could talk about the moon for hours.
Yep.
I mean, you could research your whole life, all the different paths and avenues that deal with the moon, and you'd still never cover them all. It's just
It
that
was just enough to just salivate over and just really kind of blow our minds and make us really interested in learning more about this topic.
yeah, and if you'd like to know more about exactly where we see the moon in the sky and things like that, like I said, go check out AJC Adam Carter's channel. It's amazing. I'll drop it one more time in the chat for you, but it's just a great tool to have to teach friends and family. He's very well spoken. It's not abrupt in any way. You know, he doesn't use offensive language or anything like that. It just comes across as viewing for everyone, no matter what age. You know what I mean? Yeah, just a great video maker.
Astronomy is so much more interesting in flat Earth because it's all about basing it on actual observations.
Can you, Zach, can you put my screen up one more time that has the moon phases over flat Earth?
Absolutely can.
Because before we close out, I want to touch again about what Karen said and the perfect sky clock. And this is what we know about today. The current moon phase for today is the waxing crescent phase. On this day, the moon is 2.72 days old and 6.92% illuminated with a tilt of 179.665 degrees. That would put it on our chart right about here in relationship to the sun. What we do know about it is it keeps a perfect time. We know if we look at our Sarah cycles, we can know exactly where it is in time, perfect on the cycle, regardless of, I know if you follow the news that we have groundwater, people draining groundwater has caused the planet to tilt how many inches, Zach? And
31.5 inches.
Okay, and yet we've never throughout time lost these angles or this perfection with the sky. I know that every time we have a big earthquake, it tilts us on our axis, and yet why it tilted us on our axis, we've never lost these exact precision and knowing exactly where our moon and our sun are in the sky at all time and be able to predict it with perfect accuracy for centuries. Look at, again, the astrolabes, look at the Antikythera.
I mean,
They
who's
need
the guy?
more.
Well, and can I just interject there for a second?
Please.
And it's not, and this is where a lot of people who believe in the globe kind of get stuck. It's not a prediction. We simply observe the cycles repeat, And that's how we know.
That's how we know.
We're not
Wasn't there a
predicting.
guy
Nobody's
back?
predicting anything. The
No.
cycle repeats, and we
Right.
know the cycle, and that's how we know. That's
Yeah.
it.
We've
BS.
recorded it.
BS. I'm
Yeah.
predicting the cycle will continue.
Wasn't there a guy? Was it in the Bible, Karen, or was
Hmm.
just an ancient tale? A guy said he was going to take away the sun during an eclipse, and it stopped the war. They stopped fighting, and he's like, "Okay, I'll
That's
bring."
Bible. That's Joshua.
Okay, there
Right.
you
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this isn't new. This whole, knowing the cycle.
Right. And supposedly that's how like the Aztecs and the Mayan, like those
Mayans.
they sort of like commanded so much control over the people because they knew the cycle. They had the knowledge that others didn't. Hidden knowledge. Wink wink.
Wink, wink. A
And then they
quote.
told the people, if you don't do this, I will blot out the sun, right? And they
Magic.
live and die by the sun, right? Because it's the harvest, it gives them food, it gives you life. Like,
Mhm.
so when the sun gets blotted out and they don't know any better, they're freaking out, right? So this is
Powerful.
right.
Mm-hmm.
This
I'm
stuff
going to
has
do what
been
that guy
used.
says. He controls the sun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, don't make me turn the lights off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, well.
Rolling
I just-
blackouts.
So Flattoberfest, if you haven't heard, Vegas, baby. You didn't want to show your promotion just yet, Karen B?
Not yet, but I do
Okay.
have, well, let me see. I should have pulled it up. Oh, here we go.
When I search Flattoberfest or Flat Earth festivals, it doesn't pop up in Google like Google knows what I want. Google knows
Really?
everything.
It used to
dude.
show up. It doesn't show up at all now.
Anything else you search on Google, it puts it right in your cart for you.
Yeah. I mean, they have
Yeah.
it waiting for you, or they have a bunch of ads, and I was just mentioning, even YouTube is doing this now. I've noticed this. It's
Like, would you
It's
like
like-
2 or 3 tickets?
Yeah, Cammy and I were just talking about something. I went to YouTube Home, something I've never searched before, and it's right there in the top, very first video. I was like, what?
They're
I know
listening.
Google's doing that. I knew
Yeah.
that, but
are
like
people all
YouTube's doing it in real time.
These people all look very intimidating.
Yeah.
Well, Rick, you know what's funny?
Ah.
That picture of Rick Hummer, it's kind of funny because he's a really good friend of mine. We most of us have known him for quite a while now because Rick used to
Yes.
host all the FEIC conferences and stuff. And so I was talking to him one day about the upcoming event, and I was like, by the way, I'm like, send me a picture. And he was like out in his farm doing work, and so he sent me that picture, and I was like, I'm gonna put that on the internet, and he just put LOL, and then he never sent me another one, so that's the picture I used.
Oh,
You
he
know?
is such a great guy.
Yeah, it's funny. If you know Rick, it's funny. I understand
Yeah,
that it
oh,
might.
yeah.
If you don't know Rick, you're like, who's this freak with his
Yeah, but
face
he's
in the camera?
so
But
great.
he's
You
just such a
can't-
cool dude.
It looks like he's trying to play off his baldness, like
And he's got a cousin, Roland Reddy, who is a rocket engineer.
Scientist. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's amazing. He got me really good when we were down in Dallas because we spent the whole night. We were up till like 4 a.m. at the bar, not drinking alcohol, mind you. We were just BSing and talking about everything. And yeah, and then the next day, Roland Redding, is going, Zach. And I look down there and look at him. It's like, okay, who's that guy? Then I hear Zach. And I look down and he just starts cracking up laughing. I walk down there and I had to get like within a couple feet and I noticed it was finally him. But yeah, if you don't know, he's 2 people at the conferences. It's amazing. And you don't even know it's him. It's that you could talk to him. He can go away for 10 minutes and come back, and then he can have a conversation with you, and you would think it was a different person.
Of course, now everybody will be looking for it, but
Well, most people know. But yeah, we have Rick Hummer, Dave Murphy, Mark Devlin, Amanda
UK.
Vollmer. Yes, from the UK, both of these gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
And Amanda is from
Canada.
Canada.
We're
Jaren
international.
Campanella.
Finally.
Yeah, it's about time they let us get back to this stuff.
What? Conspiracy
Bastards.
music gurus like from overseas, I thought.
He is. He's not going to be there.
Oh, what a loser.
Yeah,
Mark
I
Sargent.
agree.
Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms. Yeah, baby. I love Chief Crow.
Yeah.
Benjamin Balderson, Austin Whitsitt, Jason Lindgren, the Effie Clock.
That
F
means David Weiss will
fun.
be there.
David Weiss will be there. And of course, the lovely, the lethal Miss Karen B. Sam's Town Hotel and Gambling Hall. Still
Yeah.
tickets available.
Yes, of course. There will be. But you'll probably be able to get tickets at the door. I think.
You won't. You
Yeah,
won't.
this.
You gotta
I
get them
mean,
out.
I don't
selling
know.
quick.
I don't know. The tickets are selling faster than they have in the past. So
That's awesome.
there's still tickets now. We'll see how long it lasts.
So get them.
Unprecedented.
This is the first West Coast event, first major West Coast flat Earth event, you guys.
Yep. Yeah, the first that we've been west is Denver, right?
Yeah. And we've got international presenters and attendees. I've got people that are coming from Australia, from the UK, and there was one other place I can't remember right now. Australia, UK, and something. And I think it may be Canada so far. So definitely an international event. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast.
Nice. I can't wait. So get your tickets now, folks. We're going. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, because we got Jaren, who's it's the first time Jaren's been at any of my events, and the first time he's been a speaker in real life at an event since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. So Karen, what do you got coming up this week?
Well, I've got anti-religious scripture study on Sunday as usual, and coffee talk on Monday. I should be back on my main channel hopefully on Monday, and it will be episode 100 of Coffee Talk. And then, of course, Tuesday, Strange World with Mr. Mark Sargent. Rinse and repeat.
I try to catch them all. Strange World's usually a little late for me. That's like
It's late for
right
me,
around my
dude. I get it.
bedtime. I know. I know. It's rough. Yeah, you're a trooper. But I love that you guys kept it going too.
Yeah.
Even after you jumped off TFR. That's awesome. Because yeah, people love it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good
It's
on
fun.
you guys. Yeah. Oh yeah, Cammy's always there listening when I'm going to bed. She's like, all right, I will go watch Strange World. And Kyle, what do we got going on this week?
I've got another video I'm working on, kind of on the warpath lately, and yeah, just kind of doing some commentary on some of the modern day debates that are out there. I've listened to a lot of Ozian and Amy and all these other people out there. Yeah, I think Witsit over there does a fantastic job. And when you do these kind of online debates, a lot of different arguments get put out there, but then they kind of get scattered all over the place and they're not very organized. We'll be talking about one thing and all of a sudden you're talking about something different and then you're talking about something different. And so what I've been doing is just kind of organizing them and saying, okay, this is all on focusing on one topic. And so this next video I'm doing is on Eratosthenes. And some people, I keep like, it's a really old argument, but it keeps getting brought up over and over and over again. I'm like, guys, this thing is dead. Why do you keep bringing it up? But you hear it. And so, yeah, I don't know. Just thought this one was going to be a really good one worth talking about.
Awesome. And Skylar, what do you got coming up, man? I know you've been busy over there.
Oh, you know. Join us tomorrow. We are back for the Friday night Smackcast. That's right. We're going to be diving right back into TikTok in search of fellow true earthers, people in search of something a little bit better than just a spoon-fed mainstream model that is no longer working and giving you terrible physics to work off of. I don't know how the heck you're going to advance in that. So join us for the show. It's going to be awesome. You never really know what you're going to get. Will it be a dumpster fire? Hopefully not with my moderation. We're going to be tightening up even more. Had a little test run. What was it? Sunday? I can't remember what it was. And it was rough to say the least, but so we're going to be cracking down. We're going to be making sure that it's not everybody talking at once, maybe just letting back 1 to 2 people at a time. And yeah, hopefully we can find some good conversations, maybe some Globers with some actual new good points to tackle. Probably not, but we will see. I'm hopeful. Fingers crossed. If you guys want to show your support, feel free to check out the GoFundMe. We got a big battle coming up in the background, so we do appreciate all the support and all the love has been greatly appreciated. But other than that, playing it by ear. So I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow.
All right. And last but not least, Cammie, what do you got coming up?
Oh, you guys get to all see me in chat on the GLOBEBUSTERS primetime show on Sunday. That's where love to be on there is in the chat. This show will never replace that one for people that are asking, where is Jaron, where is Austin, where's the main crew? Skylar, you can see joining in on Sunday, and you'll always find me in the chat where I like to be. So that, Iron Rum, and here again next Thursday.
All righty. Yeah. Tomorrow night, Iron Realm Media. We're going to be going over my Fortnite map and asking members of the chat for ideas for flat Earth places and names of things, like making fun of NASA. Jaron came up with Cape Carnival. So I'm going to put a little carnival down in Florida with a rocket, and that'll be Cape Carnival. And then we're going to
Love
have
it.
Flat Earth Farms and Flat Earth Pizza and the Flat Earth Yacht Club. So we need more names of places.
Pizza Planet.
No, especially from around the world, though. We're looking for, all names of other places, or maybe where observations were made. Even if it was just a spot where a cool observation was made, we could put just a little billboard up that says so and so saw this from here, something like that. So yeah, we'll
Like
figure that out
Pontchartrain.
tomorrow. Oh yeah, we're
Little
gonna have
bridge
the
over-
bridge. Oh yeah,
That would be cool for the long distance photo over there in France, the Pic de Finistral or whatever.
yeah.
I'm
That's what I
butchering
was
that, I'm
thinking.
sure. But
But
yeah,
yeah, we could just put so and so saw this far.
Panama
Yeah.
Canal.
the Suez Canal, the locks, yeah.
Yeah,
I
we could
love
put
the-
in. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say flattening out the curve, right? In the whole
Yeah,
new context.
yeah. The Bedford level. I'll put that in there. The little canal in England somewhere. I don't
That'd
know,
be
just
a really good one. Bedford.
Or
Yeah.
the Nile running south to north.
yeah.
Yeah. For those who don't know, there's a whole lot of flat earthers out there on Fortnite. You just, when you're looking for friends on there, just type in the tag name Flat Earth. And yeah, I learned this from Good Times for All over here. And you've really pointed out to me, like, whoa. And so I've just been going through them and just friend. It's been fun.
Can you put in like Tasmanian devil type of monsters, like in Tasmania and things like that, or?
I wish I'm working on Jaron to I want lions in Africa and stuff like
Tigers
that.
and bears. Oh
Yeah,
my.
I'd like to have all kinds of stuff, but it's kind of still limited. I mean, it's still in the beta testing mode, this whole Fortnite Creative 2.0. It's their Unreal Engine, their editor that they're allowing the public to just pretty much beta test for them and work out all the kinks and the bugs and stuff like that. But it's really neat. Like the map they use, or the editing software they use to make the video games that, are played by all these people, they're now giving to us for free and just letting us run wild and make our own maps. So I made a big giant flat earth map that's 5 kilometers by 5 kilometers. And yeah, it could be a teaching tool, if anything, just show people how it works. It's not a disc floating in space or this or that. I mean, I've tried to put a dome on it. I've tried to make an artificial sun. There's limitations still. But yeah, it's going to be neat. And if anything, it'll just be a way for people to share, hey, look at this is the flat earth. If you lived on earth and it was flat, this is what it would be like. You know, it's a way to
Correction.
teach the children.
You
Yeah.
do live on Earth. It is flat, and
Yeah.
this is kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm very much interested in putting together a league for both Fortnite and Rocket League. Yeah, for flat earthers, it'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool. You should start up a Discord channel.
Yeah,
And
that's where all the gamers are.
That's where all the gamers are, for sure. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll get you all situated with Discord and all that. But yeah, you can start your own Discord like channel. Karen B used to do it. And yeah, that's how you. But yeah, we're gonna need something like that to spread the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just every little way, just share it everywhere you go, basically. And so if you're playing video games, doesn't help. Sorry, it definitely helps to put flat Earth or NASA lies. That's my tag that I normally go with is NASA lies, and just gonna put it out there, and so people can know that you're among our numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and I think there's so many out there that do play that it's gonna be people will see it and they'll jump on it and at least give it a try. And that's all I want. But I think that's going to do it. Yeah, so tomorrow night, Iron Rail Media, 6:30-ish. We show up precisely when we're meant to on Friday nights. And then tomorrow morning, if you're a trooper, 5 a.m. Eastern, we'll be doing Ironworks. You can come join us. YouTube, Rockfin, I think D-Live. We're like on all of them. So yeah, come hang out. That's Iron Rail Media. And that's where I am if I'm not here. That's where you'll find me. So that's it. Thank you all so much for joining again this week. I thought that was a very good chat. Guys are very much appreciated. I know Bob would love this, that we're keeping this idea going, this GLOBEBUSTER tech, and just kind of breaking down some of the things that, you know, a lot of these new people, they're just getting into this and they haven't had all these thoughts. And I know a lot of us have had these thoughts 5 times over now. We've gone back to the moon and things like that so many different times that we need to share this information. We need to keep sharing it. I mean, think of what a teacher does. A teacher goes to school every day, and say it's a high school teacher. They're going to teach pretty much the same thing over 7 times in a row. And then next year, on that day, they're going to go and teach that same exact thing 7 times in a row for 7 different classes.
That's why I made videos, so I only have to repeat it once, or just
Yeah,
say it
I know,
once,
but
then I never
so
have to
many people like the live stuff or the
School.
recent stuff. It's hard to get
Yep.
someone to pick a video from 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know why. It's something with the human psyche. I'm sure Dave Weiss has it all
It's
figured
like,
out.
oh, this is old.
Yeah, so it's
Well,
no
there is
longer
something
good.
about taking
Yeah.
the old material and making it better.
Yeah, you can
liked
freshen
before,
it
it's
up.
great stuff, and so time to freshen it up, take it to the next level, and
Yeah.
that's always
Just
important.
scrub the date. Give it
There's
to them.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Freshen it up, add to it, embellish
Mhm.
it, make it better. Boom.
Yeah,
That
that's what a
definitely does
teacher
not-
does.
That's definitely not what happens in public schools, though. Just be real.
No.
No, they have to follow a certain.
What's your pronouns?
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
I'm so lucky that I'm not a parent to one of these young children. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
as
Or
this
they
over-
wouldn't probably be there in public school.
Freedom
Yeah.
Twins did a great little cartoon where they were talking about how 3rd grade teachers now have the ultimate authority over your child's over the child's gender expression, right? Because a 3rd grade teacher always knows. They know better than your child. They know better than you. So
Yeah.
enjoy
Never
that.
realized how local it was over here, but they're actively pushing to get litter boxes in in the bathrooms at the public schools over here. Like seriously. For the
What?
furries.
Dude, that is so
For the
insane.
furries. But yeah, my friend is a janitor for the public school system, and yeah, his daughter's there, and he's like seriously concerned
He's
because
protesting.
the girls are going out into the bathrooms during like the public school hours, and they're in there making out in the bathrooms and yeah, going all the way. It's
There's-
really crazy. And these
There's
are just
no way.
like 14-year-old kids.
Oh
There's
my
absolutely
God.
no way that the janitors are going to sign off on litter boxes for the school. I don't
That's
see it.
what they're pushing for. It's
don't know if
crazy. It's just mind-blowing what kind of clown world we live in today.
Yeah, if you want to wonder if the dumbing down is complete. You want
There
to
you
like talk
go.
about regression. Like most children, like they know what sex they are like years before they even start school. Now they're going to school to like discover that. Yeah,
Yeah.
get out of
They're
here.
learning about it at school, and so they're doing
No.
it at school in the bathrooms.
Insanity.
It's scary.
Insanity.
And so I was talking to my friend's daughter here, and she's like, yeah, I'm so concerned about it that I have to decide to think about what times of the day I'm going to use the bathroom when there's no one else there, because I don't want to be walking in on someo's orgy or something like that.
Dude, that's crazy.
It's
that's
ridiculous
so
how bad
crazy.
it's gotten in the public school system. And I always thought I was out here in the country, out in the middle of nowhere, kind of out in Laverkin, and but no, it's not that way anymore.
Right?
That's insanity.
If you're going to go as far as to identify as a cat, then just identify as someone who doesn't want to go to school and be done with it.
There you go.
Before I say goodnight and like we leave off on this topic, I do have something in the chat I just saw that I wanted to address. One of the comments is the moon can't be a ball. The south would see different face than the north, and the same thing with the east and the west. People are putting this in our orthographic format, much like they say that the moon or sun would get so much smaller way going away, and we've done all of the work with the optics showing that because it's on a different level, what's causing it to go down is again your personal perspective, but you do not view things when they're on a higher much higher up than you are going straight up. They're not on your eye level or any place that you can get there. If you're so far below them, you're never going to see anything but the bottom part of it. You can't just draw your diagonal line the way they're saying with the optics. It doesn't work in reality that way, again, with the different lensing, and again, the way it pulls down and you pull it into your perspective in your personal dome. So we don't know that it's a ball, but you also don't know that it couldn't be a ball. Again, a lot of the tests and things that we've done have not looked at it through your personal perspective and putting your optics into it. We've just done little orthographic drawings and said, here, look. And it's like, but that's not how your eyesight works or resolves things. So again, putting it on a much higher eye level than your eyes can go to changes the way that you perceive it.
Okay. Alrighty. So that's going to wrap it up, folks. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Remember, be good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind, because there's truth inside. Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace.
Oh,
Peace.
watch my video. Is it spherical? All right, peace.
Excellent video, Karen.